So, first thing first, it says you're warning government road reforms ahead. In my class in the UK, regardless of where I talk, whether it's Oxford or no, if the phone rings, we have a rule that the person has to answer the phone and actually reply and then tell us what it's all about. Because we all want to share the news and so on. So that's usually the thing. Usually they are very high in ideas, in sort of politicians' sort of ambitions and things. But when they come to detail to deliver, they always, or in most cases, do not deliver for various reasons. And we'll see that the project in the UK, I'm one of the harsh criticized recently in a report and in a number of talks because of various things. So first thing first, Tony Blair and the Labour government, company law reform in the UK was to produce a modern company law for a competitive economy. This is not just a title. These were the title of the whole program of reform. And indeed, developing an enterprise culture has become a major policy initiative in the UK. Now, you may stop for a second and think, for competitive economy in '99, that limited evidence, right at the outset in '99, in the context of company law, actually supported the view that rather than modernizing or changing the laws of corporate law, actually what has to be done is physical, operational, macroeconomic considerations rather than company law. If you know a little bit about corporate law in the UK, or company law as it's known, it was not facilitated on big companies, public companies and so on. And there was a growing understanding that although the concepts still apply and they're relevant, they haven't actually developed to the extent that they should be. That is to make the law clearer and more comprehensible. And so the idea of putting in the law for the first time the, if you wish, code of conduct for directors, all the duties, and indeed enforcement by means of derivative was seen as actually quite a positive move in terms of perhaps, as politicians like to call it, like it's deprived of any meaning. It's only better if it serves a specific purpose or if it delivers something. But modernized in the sense that it serves a specific purpose that it was supposed to. So on that basis, and a lot of empirical research suggests, and I think it's quite interesting to see that the UK has stopped to be a model as far as UK company law for a lot of jurisdictions. A lot of common law jurisdictions has followed for many years the UK corporate law, but have stopped, like places like New Zealand, Australia, Canada, have done their own way because they realize that the law hasn't changed as the way it should. Government realized, oh God, how can we implement such a huge thing? So let's do it gradually. So some of the act, or some of the parts were coming into trenches in parts, and some were taking longer to be implemented. So over a period of 3 years, think about what it does to business, to companies, in terms of knowing what the situation is. For 3 years they're implementing, and only in October 2009, finally, the 1st of October, the entire act. So only 6 months ago. So this has been a lesson or exercise of how not to legislate in the tense. Because of course, from tonight, I can say about the reforms is that it's finally over. So it's taken 12 years, so finally we know what the legal situation is. But it's very ugly in the sense that it's not good for business because, of course, the agenda has moved on significantly. So the issues that were dominating in '98, by the time they were part of the law in 2006 or 2009, were different. This is one of the very interesting points. I did a number of articles recently and talked to conferences across Europe. There's nothing new under the sun, if you wonder what it is under the sun. In 2 articles that I produced, one which was enacted and actually one 2 years later because I predicted something that exactly would happen, is that I called it budget Euroblock nothing. There was a talk about making a whole new start, but in fact, as you will see in a second, what they have done in the UK has brought all the problems in the past, that is in the case law, into the Act. That's it. They haven't actually made a huge difference or to that extent. But if you look at this is where my students start to laugh when I look at it, because if the words of, I know there might be a number of politicians here, I don't mean it personally, but I mean it about the idea of what they say and what actually they deliver in practice. In an age, this was in '97, reforming, this was the aspiration in an age of
excellent, let's say, and overall, you have analyzed in depth all the new company law in UK. read that properly. I have the questions very concrete. Is the consideration?
US rules, when I get to a different conclusion, because we don't call it fiduciary, we call it loyalty duties, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, he says, well, we just call it different things, but we actually mean pretty much the same. So at the end of the day, we probably would have got to the same conclusion when we ended it. And there is, I think, some say this is based on substance, the issue of why we divide fiduciary duties in the sense because from the development of the UK law, as I said earlier, of these duties were about equity and about common law and direct.
Morning, Professor. Do the administrators and the directors are protected by special rule, like in real estates, are protected by the speciality rule that appears in statute and rule? And could you explain to us the difference to use an action against the director of administrations? An action would be the difference between an action, criminal action or civil action. What are the differences? I mean, in Spain, you can act against the directors and administrators if the directors and administrations
practice in the UK. There's been a lot of reorganizations and what we call involuntary rearrangements. Somebody, the UK recently wrote in the Financial Times that the UK has become the brothel of Europe for reorganization.